Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a wild magic sorcerer build guide for in Baldur's Gate 3. Now this is not as strong as the draconic or storm sorcerer, but it does get a lot of unique dialogue options and it's fantastic for role playing because it's wild. Now we're going to start off here as sorcerer. It gets constitution saving throws, so you obviously want to start sorcerer, and that's the purposes of this build. So, as far as our cantrips go, we're going to take Ray of Frost and Shocking Grasp. These will deal double damage in water, so it's very effective to take them early on, because you can use something like Mage Hand to set up water. Take Friends if you're the face of the party. If not, have that on your face. I also like to have Firebolt and Minor Illusion, because Minor Illusion will group enemies together, you can steal from them, and there's a whole bunch of uses for it. So, our spells that we're going to take at level 1 are going to be Shield, which gives us a +5 to armor class, very useful for survivability, and Magic Missile, which is absolutely incredible with the ability to always hit. Now, we get to choose our subclass at the start here, so we get the Tides of Chaos, which you activate to gain advantage on your next attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, and it takes your chances of getting a wild magic surge from 5% up to 45%, so you're pretty much guaranteed in a few moments to get a wild magic surge. Now there's a lot of different wild magic surges, and they all have their own unique effects. Usually they're detrimental to yourself or the enemy, but there's some that will give you a boost, like some give you action surge, which is really nice. And we also get the wild magic, so every time we cast a spell we get somewhat random effect at random. So as far as our ability scores, we can obviously keep our charisma as high as possible, and we can kind of dump wisdom intelligence. I would have your dexterity at a decent number there, so somewhere around 15 is pretty good, but we want to have our constitution up as high as possible to get more health, so that's what we're going to go with there. And yeah, that's it for level 1 of the sorcerer. So I'll be going over the gear that you're going to want to use on this build as well, so stay tuned for that at the end. But this is a fun class to play. There's absolutely, like, there's a lot of different dialogue options that you get, which make it super interesting. So we get our sorcery points here. I really like Ice Knife because, again, abusing the create water to double the damage is super effective. Mage armor can be really nice early on to give your armor class to 13 plus the dexterity modifier, so that's really useful since the draconic sorcerer gets this built in. I like Chromatic Orb, though. I think this is one of the most effective level 1 spells. You can choose the damage type, and it can also be lightning, or you can have it as cold damage. So, very effective. It can be upcast. It's strong. So, for meta magic, increase the range of a spell by 50%. Super useful, especially if you're finding you're not hitting enemies often, and you want to have a little bit extra range. And Twinned Spell, which I think is the best meta magic, because we can get haste, and we can twin haste to ourselves and someone else, which is pretty much broken. I think it's one of the best ways to use a twin spell. Now at level 3 we get ourselves another spell. We can choose level 2 spell slots, so there's a few standouts here. A lot of people like Cloud of Daggers for early on damage, and I agree it's pretty useful, but I like Hold Person. As a concentration, it's better to be able to hold an enemy still and then they can't move, act, or react, and then you can just while up on them with your team. And critical hits from within 3 meters, super useful. I think it's a bit better in terms of damage output than Cloud of Daggers, but either one of these is a great option, and Scorching Ray is another consideration as well, but I think it's better to go with Chromatic Orb for damage early on. And Misty Step is also great. The ability to move around freely is great because your wild magic can give you teleportation, but not always, so it's great to have that as a backup. Now we get another meta magic, and we're obviously taking Quicken Spell, so spells that cost an action cost a bonus action instead, allowing us to cast 2 spells 1 turn. Broken. Yeah, that's it for level 3 sorcerer. So there's lots of different things that can happen with the wild magic sorcerer, and that's what makes it so fun. We get another cantrip here. I think that Mage Hand can be nice just to be able to throw water bottles to set up lightning damage or cold damage. Misty Step, Cloud of Daggers, or Scorching Ray. One of the best would be out of these 3, so whatever one you find yourself using more. Scorching Ray is just pure damage, so maybe we'll go with that. And then we get ourselves a feat. Now, there's some great options early on that we can go with for feats. Alert's another good option to increase your initiative, but we're going to take our charisma up to 18, take dexterity up to 16. So something like that works great. If you left your dexterity at 16, you can take it up to 18 with both of them. Level 3 spells. There are some great ones. Haste, as I mentioned, this is the best. You can apply this to yourself and a teammate to give yourself both +2 to armor class, give yourself an extra action so you can cast 2 spells, and you become faster. We're taking that one. Lightning Bolt is another really great one, as well as Fireball. Both of these are fantastic for damage. I think Lightning Bolt's a little bit better, though. It hits damage in a large area, and it can be doubled up with the Create Water. So we also get our race spells there. So we're going to take Haste first, because it's broken. Twinned Haste can win most games. So at level 6, we're going to take Lightning Bolt. As I mentioned, being able to spam water or use water and then do cold and lightning damage can be very effective for shutting down enemies. Counterspell is amazing, but I usually leave this for a wizard. It just depends how fast you're burning through your spell slots, because it'll use a level 3 spell slot. So we're going to go with that. And then we get Bend Luck at this level. So give a target a 1d4 bonus or penalty to attack roll, saving throws, or ability checks. And this uses 2 sorcery points. So it can be useful, but sometimes that 1d4 doesn't add a whole lot to an attack roll. You'll get a notifier letting you know when you can use that. And it can be good, but sometimes it's just a waste of sorcery points. Next, at level 7, we get another spell choice here. And I think that Ice Storm is fantastic. Dimension Door can teleport you and a teammate to an area, but I think there's better options. Wall of Fire is a great concentration for fire damage. Again, you can take Fireball. I think that will, for the purpose of this, take Ice Storm. The 4d6 being able to be doubled in damage is really great. And it creates an icy surface so you can knock creatures prone. Ice Storm is underrated. I don't see a lot of people talk about it enough. It's actually got a lot of usefulness. And you can set up water with Ice Storm because it makes icy surface. Hit it with fire a couple times. Bada boom, bada bing, you got water. Now, we're going to take for our next level spell, Confusion's great concentration. It can confuse it's a large circle of effect, and it causes enemies to attack each other, wander around. Counterspell is another good option, and Fireball. I'm going to go with Counterspell just because of the usefulness that brings to the party. For our ability improvement, we're going to take our Charisma up to 20. I think that's just the best way to go about doing that for higher attack spell attack rolls. At level 9, we get some great options at level 5 spell. Hold Monster can hold anything that's not undead, and that's pretty useful in late game fights. I think Cone of Cold works best though. This hits a huge area of effect, and it does 8d8 of cold damage. In water, that becomes upwards of 128 damage. That's fantastic. So we're going to take that one. Very useful. Cold and lightning damage is some of the most effective ways to deal damage in Baldur's Gate 3. Now we can take maybe like Bone Chill for our cantrip there. And then for our next level spell, I like Hold Monster just to be able to shut down an enemy's... like these are great concentrations to shut down the enemy's team. Meta Magic. We can go with something like a subtle spell to cast spells while silenced. Or if you want to double the duration and conditions, summons, and surfaces caused by spells, extended spell can be great. So, something like that, that works great. We're going to go with that. And then we get ourselves up to level 11, and we get ourselves the subclass feature Controlled Chaos. Foes may suffer a wild magic surge while casting spells near you or fluctuating magic. So, you can affect them with it. I think that's a funny one. This is not like a perfect build. I always get people coming at me whenever I make builds that are not perfectly optimized down to last min-max. Sometimes it's just fun to play as a certain class in Baldur's Gate 3. So that's what this class is all about. It's for fun. And I like it. Now, Chain Lightning is the only really option here. Globe of Invulnerability is fantastic, but I usually like to have that from a wizard because they can regenerate their spell slots. And Circle of Death can be good on necromancers, but as I mentioned, we're going to be going for water damage because this can do upwards of 160 damage in water. So 10d8 of lightning damage doubled. Freaking amazing. So that is that for level 11. At level 12, we do get a final feat. But, if you don't want to take another spell, because we don't get another level 6 spell slot, what we can do is we can add in the Cleric. The reason being is the Cleric's going to give us heavy armor proficiencies, which is super useful. We also get a couple cantrips that we don't normally get. And Tempest Domain for the subclass feature as a reaction, strike back at an attacking creature, dealing 2 to 16 lightning or thunder damage, and the target takes half damage on saving throw. We also get the Thunder Wave for pushback and Fog Cloud, so Tempest is amazing. You can pick a deity. And since our wisdom is a little dumpy, what we can do is I'm wearing the dexterity gauntlet, so you can drop your dex and put it into wisdom, and then we can take more spells, but there's only really one that we care a lot about. Healing Word can be nice to bring up a creature from being downed. So if you have a teammate that's down, you can bring them back up with it. Bless is great if you have someone else that does, if you don't have another party member with Bless. And Command's also really nice. So we can dump Dexterity and put it into Wisdom if you have the Dexterity gauntlets. I have them on for the purposes of this, but I'll be going over what it looks like with and without. Now, for this build, let's get into the items here. So, Margaheshkar is the best staff in the game. You should have that on your Sorcerer or Wizard at all times because Kareska's favor is brokenly good. It's just fantastic. We'll get into that in a second. I like the Mask of Soul Perception to give you +2 to attack rolls, initiative rolls, and that just helps out with hitting and moving first. Cloak of Displacement gives creatures disadvantage on attack rolls against you. That's just nice. Advantage on saving throws against your spells is nice from the Shelter of Akalatha, but you can also go with, like, we have armor class 18, which is not fantastic. We can go, like, pretty hard with higher, or, like, we can put on that, which you don't need the heavy armor proficiency to use that, but you can even go with something like the Armor of Agility for 25 armor class with our Dexterity gauntlets. Now, if you take off the Dexterity gauntlets, that will drop a bit, but there's a few options that we can go with for... I like the Daredevil gloves for +1 attack spell rolls, but then also at melee range, you can cast your spells without any disadvantages, so that's pretty nice. And also, gloves of dexterity are super useful in this. And even the Deadly Channeler gloves for arcane critical is pretty good. So, the evasive shoes for +1 armor class, pretty great here. And I like the Ring of Regeneration to give you 1d4 health. You can also take items that will give you effects on heal and take that so that heals you and gives you effects. Crypt Lord Ring to give us the Create Undead spell. I think that's just fantastic. Someone should always have that because getting a free level 6 spell, especially tipping the action economy by having another summon, is massive. The Psychic Spark, shoot an additional dart whenever you cast Magic Missile, is pretty great if you're using that early on. Late game, the Amulet of Greater Health will take us from 87 to 123 health, so that's pretty good. And then advantage on Constitution saving throw checks, which we also have proficiency in Constitution saving throw checks, so we're not breaking concentration, so you can hold person and not worry about it. I talked about Margaheshkar, but I like Viconia's Walking Fortress, so anything that's got +3 to armor class is nice, and this is great for spell users. Gain advantage on saving throws against spells, spell attack rolls against you have disadvantage. It's very great. If you want, you can put on the Dead Shot to give yourself a higher chance of getting critical hit, but what we're going to be wanting to do is use Kareska's Favor, and there's two options. There's Frost of the Dark Winter and Bolts of Doom. This will give you extra damage on your lightning attacks, and it allows you to cast Thunderbolt and Chain Lightning. And then with the Frost of the Dark Winter, this gives you free Ice Storm and Cone of Cold. I want to do this one just to show you why Cone of Cold is so great, because just look at that range. People don't talk about Cone of Cold enough. It can be a complete game winner for you. So, Ice Storm is nice, but also Cone of Cold. Like, don't be afraid to use that. Cone of Cold is actually pretty powerful, and it looks cool too. So, yeah, you want to be using your Bend Luck. This build is meant to be, like, a pretty funny one. Like, it's, again, not meant to be perfect. You're typically going to want to use Haste and apply Haste, Twinned Haste to you, and you can apply it to yourself, or you can apply it to someone that's a martial class and get them in close. If you have a fighter, it's fantastic. It's 6 attacks. Really nice. Hold Person is your main concentration. I would recommend using that and Hold Monster as much as possible just to stop enemies from being able to deal damage to you. And Hold Monster can really make some boss fights a lot easier. If you want, you can also take the potions that restore your spell slots and create a bunch of sorcery points, and you can change your sorcery points back into spell slots. So it gets pretty wild with what you're capable of doing with this build. So I think this is a pretty great build. You can also upcast, create water. That's another thing. Like, you can literally, like, upcast it and cover an entire room, and then chain lightning, they are dead. So the wild magic sorcerer, while it's mostly random with what happens, it's still very effective. So I think this class can be really great, and the Sorcerer is the best class in the game. So even if this subclass is not fantastic, it's still a fantastic class regardless. So it's fun to play as. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video useful, please hit the subscribe button below, and I'll see you in the next video.